Hi there, I'm going to present to you my place-based education program. So an overview of my program. So I envision a restructured education system with place-based education as the central framework. In this case, students would receive their schooling, assessments, and feedback primarily outside of school and in place. This would reduce the limits of institutional and traditional schooling, and that is based off of Bourdieu's cultural capital theory. And so that would come with changes to assessments, curriculum outcome, and learning styles. Additionally, this would connect learning to community, land, and real-world experiences. Students may be out at a museum, or they could be working with farmers. Maybe they're outside in a forest with a retired naturalist, or volunteering with a local nonprofit for a political cause that they're interested in. On Ladson Billings' point about cultural responsive pedagogy, so learning becomes more equitable when diverse students can bring forward their own experiences, their own culture, and their own local interest into their learning. In terms of the implementation of this program, it would be a provincially driven change. A centralized education system would signal a change to a decentralized and bottom-up approach to learning. In this case, students and also local community members would be deciding what they learn. A place-based education team is created with its members being Indigenous knowledge holders, place-based education experts, and a mix of urban and rural representatives in education, people who are actually out in those communities. They would facilitate place-based education and connections with the locals, which are important for the implementation of the program. They're also involved in how resources are distributed and making sure that they're done equitably. So this would ensure that students, regardless of their socioeconomic background or any background, would have equitable access to transportation, events, materials, and equipment. Community members would take a very important and active role in developing what you could call curriculum outcomes, and they're involved in committees where they can determine where students can apply themselves in the community. So they might ask questions like, what issues are there in the community? What should students know about our community? Within this point, students will develop many cross-curricular skills, which would happen naturally as the topics focus on many areas. Within this too, inevitably students will face pretty heavy environmental and social issues. And so these experiences might be uncomfortable for them while they're also applying themselves in an area that's an important reality of the community, and therefore they understand the reality of what's happening. Additionally, assessments and school change to value problem solving, creativity, collaboration, and determination. So no more picking of winners and losers by the education system, since this is an unfair practice and it perpetuates inequality in class status. Within that, economic success is not the sole focus of school anymore. It instead focuses on community, ecology, local culture, and this becomes an important part of the lives of students after they leave school. And so how does this impact teachers? So students will be spending a lot of time outside of the classroom, and so the role of teachers naturally changes. Teachers become facilitators and coaches. They're reactive to student interest and what they're doing out in the community, and ultimately they cannot push traditional assessments or random curriculum outcomes on students that have nothing to do with their lives. They play an active role in facilitating these lasting community relationships, particularly as students move on the next year, and then gradually taking on responsibility from the place-based education team in preserving those community relationships. And so what are the key takeaways? Students from all backgrounds can benefit significantly from place-based education. Everyone can contribute to society and have a good life. It evens the playing field for students from disadvantaged groups, but it also gives all students practical and useful education that they can use for the rest of their lives. Schools are also found to be incredibly disconnected from their communities and ecology, while locals have too little of a say in curriculum, and Indigenous knowledge holders even less so. These people need to be brought on board for making curriculum and lessons, and it's going to take time to build those relationships. Next, I highlight the two readings from Van der Waal and Werdinger, which highly influence the point that communities have many issues and schools are wasting students' time when they could be out helping fix the issue or applying themselves. Beyond that, we have the point of decolonization of education and the idea that local knowledge is ultimately being lost by having students in schools instead of out learning in different places or from different knowledge holders and community members. The next point I'll note is that there would need to be a full systemic overhaul for place-based education to really be used successfully and with full impact, and that would take a lot of time and a committed team. Final note on that is that money and resources from the education department, they would be reallocated for this to become a reality. And the last point is that there is likely to be some pushback from community members at first, particularly as they are part of the old system of education that values the economy above all. They're going to be skeptical of the environmentalism and decolonization of education in this project. Finally, this project would significantly change the lives of students. They'd be more engaged. They'd have more curiosity to learn and an appreciation and understanding of ecology, which is currently missing from traditional schools. Thank you.